wonder how many of you believe that in my backpack I have all sorts of problems that I created. And they all have to do with books. So you may not believe that about me, but I had to learn somehow. In this bag are a bunch of my mistakes. I'm going to tell you what I did wrong with them. That way you won't make the same mistake. So I have to tell you that I absolutely love peanut butter and jelly. When I make peanut butter and jelly, I put peanut butter on one side of the bread, I put peanut butter on the other side of the bread, and then I put jelly in between. And then when I put it together and I go to eat it, sometimes the jelly oozes through. Well, I was at home one night and I was eating my peanut butter and jelly, and I just got a brand new Fly Guy book that I wanted to read. And so I was reading it while I was eating my peanut butter and jelly. And I had a big oops, as you can tell. I ended up with jelly all over my book. And I got a little bit concerned because I knew it wasn't actually mine, it was from the library. And so I didn't pay any attention to it, and I just kept reading. But as I kept reading, it got everywhere, and I was embarrassed to tell my mom and dad, so I just hid it on the shelf, and I pretended like it didn't happen. And then when it was time to turn it in, I did. Oh man, the book was absolutely ruined. I really should have probably told my parents or maybe my librarian about it, because man, had I cleaned it up right away, I might have been able to salvage it, but now it's just trash. I totally ruined it. So I learned my lesson: never ever eat when I'm reading my library book. Well, I have to tell you the story about this one. You're not going to believe this. So I was out trick-or-treating, and when I was trick-or-treating, I got all kinds of yummy stuff. And one of the things I got was that big double bubble. And I love the taste of that, even though it goes away really fast. I love just the big wad of it in my mouth, and I was chewing it, and I was reading my story, Click Clack Boo. And as I was reading it, there was a part of it that was kind of silly, kind of funny. And when I was reading it, what happened is my gum fell out of my mouth. And I knew that I made another bad decision. And I was so embarrassed. Once again, I just closed the book and I put it away. Well, when I came back to it, I noticed that actually the gum had stuck to the page, and the page was all ripped off, and the gum had dried on the page, and there was no way that I could use this book again or take it back to the library. I was so sad that I'd made yet another really bad decision. Well, another thing that happened is I have a dog at home, and she's pretty big. And when I got home at night, I was reading my book, and then my mom called me to dinner, so I left my book on the couch. And when I came back, I saw that my dog had something in her mouth. It was my book. And I realized that she had taken it and actually chewed it. So see, my mom told me is that sometimes dogs, they smell really good. In fact, they have better noses than we do as people. And since these books go to all kinds of homes, that my dog probably smelled maybe another dog. And so she just started licking it, and the more she licked it, the more it got icky, and then she ended up chewing on it, and then it was just ruined. Oh, and I felt so bad about that too. Well, I also have a little brother. My little brother, he's pretty good most of the time. And so I was just reading my book, and he was playing, and my friend came over and asked me if I wanted to play, so I left my book and I went and played with my friend. And when I came back, I noticed that my brother had started coloring in my book, and I was so mad at him. You know, the other things were my fault, but this was his fault, because look at it, he cut colors on every single page almost, and he ruined the book. And so I went and I told my parents, I said, look what he did. And I knew he was going to get in trouble because this one was not my fault. But can you believe this? They said this was my fault too. They said he's too little to know. he just saw paper and he had a crayon and he started marking in it. He didn't know any better. They said I should have kept my book in my backpack. Then it would have been away from him. And actually, you know what, they said I should have done that with the book that my dog ate too. I should have just kept it in my backpack when I wasn't using it. Then it would be really safe. Well, I guess I learned my lesson there. Never leave your book around dogs or little siblings or little kids of any kind. Never eat when you're by your book. Never chew gum with your book. I mean, goodness gracious. Well, you know what else? I absolutely love water. That's probably my favorite thing to drink. And so I always take a big jug of water with me to school. And it's nice and cold. Sometimes when it's nice and cold and it's hot outside, it gets kind of dewy on the outside. And the little bits of water in my water bottle, they just kind of drip off. It feels really good if I'm hot and I can rub it on my legs. But anyway, I put it in my backpack one day with my books and everything else I needed to bring back to school. And then I found, when I got back to school, that my book was all wet. And I couldn't figure out how. And I realized that my water bottle had gotten all over it. I felt so horrible because I thought, now I've ruined another book. You know, you'd think that water wouldn't ruin things, like we drop it on the floor and it just dries, or we drop it on our leg and it just dries, but it doesn't just dry on paper, it leaves it all crumpled up. Well, it got more than one of my books. It got another one here too. And you can see what it did to this one. This book isn't hard anymore. You can bend the front cover and the back cover, and actually the paper came off of it. I had no idea water would do such a thing to my book. Well, that was really a way for me to learn that I've got to make sure that I carry my water bottle, because even if it wasn't dewy on the outside, it leaks a lot. You know, most water bottles leak. So I learned to put everything in my backpack, put my backpack on in the morning, and then just carry my water bottle. That way I don't ruin any of my books and I don't ruin any of my schoolwork. And then my teacher doesn't have to worry about the books that I've ruined that belong to her or to the library. So, man, I learned no food around my library books, no gum around my library books, no dogs, no animals, no guinea pigs, no rats, no cats around my library books, no little friends around my library books, and definitely no water around my library books. So I hope that all these lessons I learned will be helpful to you, so you don't have to learn them. You'll just remember not to do them because Mrs. Rodell already